Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtadrashata Shishamaras Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtadrashata Shishamaras Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's 8th Canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 16, the Payovrata Process of Worship. I'll just read 10 now myself, and then we could chant 11 together. Api sarve kushalinas tava putra manasvani lakshaye sastam atmanam bhavatya lakshanaraham. O great-minded lady, are all your sons faring well? Seeing your withered face, I can perceive that your mind is not tranquil. How is this so? Okay, so please repeat after me. Shri Aditya Uvacha Bhadram Dvija Gavam Brahman Dharmasyasya Janasya Cha Tri Vargasya Param Chaitram Grihamedin Griha Ime Shri Aditya Uvacha Bhadram Dvijagavam Brahman Dharmasyasya Janasya Cha Tri Vargasya Param Chaitram Grihamedin Griha Ime Shri Aditya Uvacha Bhadram Dvijagavam Brahman Dharmasyasya Janasya Cha Tri Vargasya Param Chaitram Grihamedin Griha Ime Shri Aditya Uvacha Bhadram Dvijagavam Brahman Dharmasyasya Janasya Cha Tri Vargasya Param Chaitram Grihamedin Griha Ime. Okay, please chant. Really chant. Any online reciters? All right. Please repeat after me. Shri Aditi Uvacha. Srimati Aditi said, Badram, all auspiciousness. Dvijagavam, of the Brahmins and the cows. Brahman, O Brahmana. Dharmasya asya, of the religious principles mentioned in Shastra. Janasya, of the people in general. Cha, and Trivargasya, of the three processes of elevation. Dharma, Artha, and Kama. Param, the supreme. Kshetram, filled. Grihamedin, O my husband, who are attached to household life. Griha, your home. Ime, all these things. Translation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Aditi said, O my respected Brahmin husband, all is well with the Brahmins, the cows, religion, and the welfare of other people. O master of the house, the three principles of Dharma, Artha, and Kama flourish in household life, which is consequently full of good fortune. Purport. In household life, one can develop the three principles of religion, economic development, and sense gratification according to regulations given in the śāstras. But to attain liberation, one must give up household life and place himself in the transcendental renounced order. Kashyapa Muni was not in the renounced order of life. Therefore, he is addressed here once as Brahman and another time as Grihamedin. Aditi, his wife, assured him that as far as household life was concerned, everything was going nicely, and the Brahmins and cows were being honored and protected. In other words, there were no disturbances. Household life was duly progressing. Om Ganita Varandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Vandaditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kritavachalang Pangamanga Tegrim Yakipidamaham Bande Shri Gurun Nitaranam Vanchakavadi Vesha Kipasandi Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebyo Vaishnavebyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gauda Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, read the translation once again. Aditi said, O my respected Brahmin husband, all is well with the Brahmins, the cows, religion, and the welfare of other people. O master of the house, the three principles of Dharma, Artha, and Kama flourish in household life, which is consequently full of good fortune. So Aditi's husband has returned to his home, and he is seeing that Aditi is looking very depressed and disturbed, and he's wondering what's the cause? Why are you feeling like this? Why are you looking like this? Say that the face is the index of the mind. Prabhupada quotes that in one of his purports. Not sure the origin of that one, but Prabhupada does quote it in the purport. So a similar thing happens in the first canto, where Arjuna is returning to to, where is he returning to? Anyone remember that one? First canto. Yeah, he's returning to Hastinapur, yeah. And he's speaking with his brother Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking Krishna, he's asking Arjuna, what happened to you? And he goes through a long list of possible things that could have went wrong. And therefore he's looking very unhappy, Arjuna. Then finally Yudhishthira comes to the last thing. Is it that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has left this world? And that was the case. So when we talk about somebody feeling joyful or someone feeling peaceful and progressive in their life, there's actually a lot of things that could go wrong in that equation. And interesting enough is that, at least from the perspective of the Srimad Bhagavatam, most people don't even have a lot of those things on their list at all. They're thinking, what's wrong with me? Why aren't I joyful? Why aren't I peaceful? Why don't I feel like I'm progressing? Why do I feel lost in this world? Why do I feel out of place? And they may go through so many different, they may have their own list according to the self-help books they have read or the life coaches they have spoke to or their own mental speculations. But again, many of the things that the Bhagavatam lists are not on the list at all. Like, have you failed in religious duties? Or like, religious duties? What's that? And why should I care about that? For example, a householder, at least traditionally, and of course times are different now, and how we apply certain principles is not exactly how we would apply them traditionally, but in Srila Prabhupada's home, or Srila Prabhupada, his father, and this is said in scripture, you go outside your door and you say, is anyone hungry? Come on in. Lunchtime, ring a bell. And then you bring everybody in and you feed them, and then afterwards you have your meal. So in this way there's some charity, there's some developing a charitable mood. So Srila Prabhupada, it doesn't say he would go out and necessarily say, is anybody hungry? He'd ring a bell, but he would find devotees, people, and he would bring them into his home, and he would feed them. And he would always say to these people, please bless my son that he becomes a good devotee of Srimati Radharani. So this idea of charity, for example, that's one. But there's so many religious duties that are there. And again, these may not be in people's lists. So when we read this chapter, when we're in the process of reading this chapter, we just started pretty much, the husband, he's going to ask so many questions to Aditi. Why aren't you happy? Why aren't you happy? So there's a long list. So in this way, we could get a sense of, if we're at all not feeling happy, we could get a sense why that may not be. Why that will be? Why is that the case? So that's one thing we can learn in this particular from this chapter. So in other words, you could say there's like a science to happiness. It's not just that, oh, someone has failed to respect me, somebody has failed to recognize my whatever it is, my personality, this and that. You know, people want to feel, what is it called, validation? Is that what it's called? Yeah, validation. They want some validation from people, from society. So it's not that happiness just revolves around that, for example, largely, which a lot of people may think nowadays. But there's a whole list. So, in relation to household life, Srila Prabhupada mentions that 3 principles of religion: economic development, sense. One can develop the 3 principles of religion: economic development, sense gratification, according to the regulations given in the scripture. So this idea, dharma, artha, kama. So religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. So these things are developed within household life. In a sense, household life is revolving around these things. There's gratification of one's personal desires, kama. There's economic development, artha, and then there should be some religiosity going on there too. Devamrita Swami's mother told him as a young boy, which I've mentioned a number of times, but I thought was amusing. She told him, training him as a young boy, she said, "Romance without finance is a nuisance." Or as recently, there's some song that my sister somehow shared with me, and that was pretty funny. I've mentioned it some time ago, but it's something like, "Oh, the best things in life are free, but you could give them to the birds and bees. I want money." So it's one, happens to be a lady, she's singing. And yeah, and she says, your love gives me such a thrill, but your love will not pay the bills. I want money. So she's singing. So artha, economic development. There needs to be some money. So we see this is in household life. So those who are in household life, they have to play that game, if you want to say it in those terms. They have to work according to that game. But to attain a liberation, Srila Prabhupada continues, one must give up household life and place himself in the transcendental renounced order. So then we have moksha, liberation, going beyond these things. Because after all, even though that lady singing might think it's all about money, or people might think it's all about being a good person in terms of religiosity, or people might think it's about sense gratification, ultimately the goal, could say, is liberation. And for when we hear the word liberation, especially amongst crowds, Indian crowds, they may think, oh, liberation, it means the soul merging in with the Supreme Soul, like impersonal, Sayuja Mukti. But the Vaishnavas, their liberation is something else. Does anyone remember the Sanskrit term? Yes, Javada Prabhu, you'd like to. It's a very famous term. Javada Prabhu quotes this often.
Muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupena vivastitihi.
Yes.
Is that what it means?
Yeah.
So this is in the second canon where they give like a table of contents and what's the 10 subjects in the book, and one of them is mukti, and they define each one. So mukti means hitva anyata rupam, to give up all these other forms that we've had, like the ones we have now, material forms, and to be situated in one's spiritual swarup, his actual spiritual form and mood and consciousness in relation to Krishna.
Yes. So, and as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, there's, because you have that general list, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, religiosity, dharma, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, moksha, liberation. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying there's the fifth goal, prema pumarta maha, the highest goal, and that is love for God, love for Krishna. So that is the real thing. That's what the soul really wants. And in order to get that, generally it's a gradual process. At least within the traditional times of Vedic civilization, the women and men were trained from a very early age in self-control, in understanding Vedic knowledge and arts. The arts, Vedic arts, they were trained. And in this way, they have a very good chance of being successful throughout their life and then continuing in their life. Understanding the principle that most want to enter family life and contribute to the society in that way. So there's a whole training before that happens. Like, for example, which makes sense, in some monasteries, Christian monasteries, they have all types of interesting things they do. But in one monastery, what they do is that when somebody joins, they put them in a room. And they just, they have like they open the, little box, they put their meals in and everything. Kind of like this little audio room, we have a little box there. That everyone knows that the audio room here has a thing you could open. So they put them in this room, and there's like 5 books there, some Christian books, and they have their beads or whatever, their meditation beads, this and that. And they pretty much tell them that, okay, the idea is that you're going to be here as long as it takes for you to have some real communion with God. So whether that takes a week, and don't lie about it, whether it takes a week or a month or however long, you'll be here. And the idea is that then after they have that experience, then they're let into the ashram to associate with or the monastery to associate with the other monks. So in a similar way, people are trained from a very early age as brahmacharis, as women are trained in particular ways, and then they're, you could say, let loose into society to contribute to society. So there's a training for that, ashram training. But as Srila Prabhupada's making the point here, that after that household life, there is an after household life stage. And for some men, that is considered, that stage is the renounced order of life, sannyas, where they dedicate everything fully, their body, their mind, their words, everything to Krishna. Krishna's pleasure, and for the benefit of human society, and for their own benefit, ultimately also. Now, does everyone have to take sannyas? People think, well, I hope not. It's kind of rough, No, not everyone has to take sannyas. Okay, you could like sigh relief. Oh, okay, good. But at least everyone should give up household life in the sense that they could they still may be with their wife and their husband, but they live as vanaprasthas. They're retired from active life, and they're just fully dedicated to Krishna service. And that's very important. A stage to work towards and to understand the importance of and to plan for. Because that's what Scripture is recommending. I spoke with one devotee, senior devotee, some time ago, and I was talking to him about America, in Krishna consciousness in America. And I was mentioning how some people, they feel they're not so positive of the prospects of spreading Krishna consciousness in America due to so many, whatever it may be. There's so many reasons they may give. And he was making the point that he had faith that the devotees being born in the movement now and growing up can contribute significantly in a positive way. And he also mentioned the vanaprasthas, means devotees who are who've been working for many, many years and who are now planning and actively stopping that and dedicating themselves fully to Krishna consciousness. He had faith that they can contribute significantly also. So that's there. But ultimately, everyone should take sannyas in the sense, and not formally necessarily, but at least informally in the sense that they give everything to Krishna. That's the idea. And although I say that not everyone needs to do it, some should. And it's absolutely required that some do. And that may mean that some go from the brahmacharya ashram to the sannyasa ashram, or that may mean some go from the grihastha ashram or the vanaprastha ashram to the sannyasa ashram. One devotee, one sannyasi, he told me how he had a very good wife and nice children, and everything was good. But then he said how he had a dream, and Srila Prabhupada came to his dream. And Srila Prabhupada was sitting there in the dream with him, and then he was asking him, so how is everything going? And then the devotee was saying everything was going good. And it was, materially speaking and spiritually speaking. He was a very respected person in the devotee circle, and again, everything was nice. And then Srila Prabhupada, he said something like, well, that's not good enough. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to work. And then he said in the dream, he was just like shocked, like, oh my God, like that's not going to work, like. And then Srila Prabhupada was pointing, you should move towards the sannyasa ashram. And he said he woke up and he was quite fearful in a sense. Because you could think about, your whole life and then just walking away from that. It's really intense, actually. But he did. And he's living in that way. So it's very, it's commendable. Is that a... Yeah, commendable. So again, it's not that everyone has to do that, but we could relate that to ourselves in a different way. That is our offering good enough? Say, yeah, of course, it's perfect. Or can we give more? Can we give more to Srila Prabhupada, to Krishna? So that means we may have to increase our service, or maybe it doesn't mean that, but we may have to decrease our effort or our attention. It can mean different things for different people. So somebody's listening to the class outside, just see. Aditi, his wife, assured him that as far as household life was concerned, everything was going nicely, and the Brahmins and cows were being honored and protected. So that was one of the things that she was assuring her husband of, reassuring her husband of. Everything's going well. I'm properly respecting the Brahmins. I'm properly respecting the cows. I'm contributing to take care of them. So everything's going well. So there wasn't any disturbances. So yeah, we'll hear more throughout in this chapter. He'll continue asking some questions, more questions, and then he'll give her a specific process. Yeah, the Payavrata process of worship. So, all right, does anybody have any question, comment?
So I was thinking of two things. I should be guided by dreams. And then the other thing is that you already answered it, so that's the only one I can come up with.
Okay. Well, if they're lucid dreams, you could be guided, just joking. Yeah, I mean, dreams we're careful about. One devotee in Los Angeles, he told another sannyasi that last night I had a dream. And in the dream, Srila Prabhupada said that first of all, this devotee, he wasn't so serious in some ways and so fit. He wasn't, fixed in a number of ways. So anyways, he said, I had a dream last night, and Srila Prabhupada said that I should be a guru. And this other devotee, this other senior devotee, he said, oh, that's interesting, because I had a dream last night also, and Srila Prabhupada told me you shouldn't be a guru. So yeah, we have to be very careful with this idea of taking guidance from dreams, and whatever ideas we do get, whether they're from the daydream or the night dream or whatever stage of consciousness we might be in any particular moment, we should always consult the other senior Vaishnavas, our gurus, Diksha gurus, Shiksha gurus, and devotees in good standing to understand, to get a clear indication if that's something that we should move towards. So in other words, if we have some daydream or night dream and we get some idea and we go to our Diksha guru, our Shiksha gurus, very good senior devotees, and they all say, that's a bad idea. So we should accept that as a bad idea. But if they say it's a good idea, then good. But in terms of the spiritual master appearing in dreams, it is a form of mercy, and it is, it is nice when that happens. So that's some things. Something.
That was a very good answer. The need to confirm. But Srila Prabhupada himself had a number of those dreams where his spiritual master would appear to him. Prabhupada said that his spiritual master would wake him up in the dream. And then he'd come to the door and beckon him to follow. And Prabhupada said he would follow, and then he'd beckon him, come out the door, and Prabhupada would come out the door. And in most Indian houses in those days, there was always a perimeter wall and kind of a garden in front, or they'd keep some cows, or have a well there or something. So Prabhupada would come out into that courtyard, and his spiritual master in front of him would go to the gate, which opened onto the public lane or whatever, and he would beckon him, and he would come to that gate, and then, out, which would normally open out into the open road, and there'd be the ocean. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would start walking across the ocean and beckoning him, follow me. So, come to the west, come again. And Prabhupada said, it happened a number of times, I think 3 times. Prabhupada said, in this way he gave me no peace.
Yes.
He was joking, but...
Yes.
Now I heard, but you hear so many things, and I cannot remember the source. So it may be completely bogus. So I'm asking, has anyone else heard this and have a source? No, that I heard Prabhupada say, and it's in Lilamrita. But no, my question is, I heard that dreams, while the spiritual master is still present, of course, those you can easily confirm by asking. But more serious are dreams about the spiritual master after he leaves. But I don't know the source, so it may be completely bogus. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard that, Balaram?
That they're more serious after the disappearance.
After the disappearance. Otherwise, I'll just delete it out of my mind. I'm just wondering, has anyone else heard that?
I don't remember.
All right, then I'll
Top of my head. Yeah, Bhakti Sarvagya Garanga Swami, he was here recently, the devotee from South Africa. I was speaking with him. He's a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti True Swami, and he was mentioning how Bhakti True Swami was telling him how Srila Prabhupada encouraged him to take sannyas. Prabhupada was encouraging Bhakti True Swami to take sannyas, and how Bhakti True Swami felt that was like closing certain doors in which he wouldn't ever go back to, his old whatever it may be, and going forward in Krishna consciousness, teaching Krishna consciousness, and so on. And Bhakti Sarvagya Garanga Swami, he was mentioning how he also felt that Bhakti True Swami was doing that to him. Lovingly, you could say cornering him in a sense, and encourage him, you should do this, you should. So yeah, we see that happens sometimes, whether somebody realizes it or not. Yes, Guru Krishna Das?
Maybe Dravida.
I think when Sankarshan first met Guru Krishna, Sankarshan said, what is your name? He said, my name's Guru Krishna. And then Sankarshan, he offered his obeisances. He's thinking, this is Guru Krishna, so. All right, Guru Krishna Das, yes.
Tragic, right? Perhaps Dravida.
And that was beneficial for him, yes.
Just as a sidelight,
I don't know.
we had a Bhakta Dev who was quite a character. This was in Ann Arbor. So when we first called him Bhakta Dev, he said, you can call me Guru Dev. So, this guy's a bit of an ego problem.
That's a good one. This comes from Jayadvaita Swami, and it's not about sannyas, but it's about brahmachari. So he was championing brahmachari. Maybe Dravida knows this, what he used to say. I have some recollection. But anyway, it went something like this, that everyone should, maybe everyone doesn't need to take sannyas, but everyone should become a brahmachari. Yeah, so everyone should become a brahmachari. And everyone's like, well, I don't know. And he goes, even just for one day, become a brahmachari. You remember this? Did you read it?
No, I don't.
And the devotees are like, brahmachari for one day? He goes, yes, because that would be the best day of your life.
Nice. Confirmation, right? Good Krishna, you've been here for a little while, right? Yes.
One thing I remember Kadambakanana Maharaj saying,
Saintly person.
yeah, wonderful, that when he was planning to take sannyas, he was married. He said he never had to think about business as much as when he was getting ready to take sannyas, because he had to set up his wife. There was no senior son to come and take, So he figured out something so that she would be taken care of, so it wouldn't be a burden on ISKCON. And I think, I used to travel to Alachua quite often, and I knew quite a few of the devotees there. And this is one of the different, because of the social way it is, it's nice if you can have children, and then you have a senior son who's ready to help and take care of the mother, and so the father can take sannyas, when he's young enough to be able to travel and do so. But that's often not the case. You have, you don't have your family system. You have, they grow up and then they go to college 1,000 miles away, and you're lucky if they call you once a week or month. So I think that's one of the things that's a little bit of an impediment in the West anyway, for taking sannyas. It shouldn't be an impediment so much for vanaprastha, because then you're allowed to travel with your wife, nice way, and go to the holy places. But that's, I think, one of the things that, because if you read the Prabhupada's books, that's the system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the father takes sannyas, goes to the forest, and the elder son takes care of the mother, and everything's fine. But that rarely happens today.
Yeah, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had an interesting idea of, I forgot what he called it, like Vishnu Priya Ashram or something. Something he wanted to, I don't know if he developed it, but it was something he wanted to develop in Mayapur for like a big ashram for retired women, to chant and hear and all of that. So.
Sometimes in Vrindavan, they have those old ladies ashram.
Yeah.
And usually you'll go by on a rickshaw or whatever, and they're having wonderful kirtan.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of those women's ashrams like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All right, Chad, you have something?
Hare Krishna. Couple things. Didn't Srila Prabhupada in one of his purports say that a devotee practicing bhakti yoga is essentially renounced?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
He used to say Grihastha Brahmachari.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing is, in the past, were the new brahmacharis, were they placed in the audio room for a little while with the window?
No.
I'm just kidding.
No.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
We have a different method. So we have a whole different method. Yeah. Chant, dance. What is it, Sreshwar? Chant, dance.
Happy.
No, there's more. Chant, dance, take prasadam. What else? That's it? Yeah, chant, dance, take prasadam. Any questions? Philosophy, yes. Anyone here? No. Okay. All right. Any online question or comment? All right. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.